This is the house from the horror game Fears of Fathom. You mostly spend the entire game in this house, hiding from some creepy old dude. But did you ever stop to look at the house itself? Like, really stop and look. Because if you search it top to bottom, there's some problems. And that's an understatement. Like, where's the bathroom? And who installed these gutters? So today we're performing a home inspection on this beautiful piece of real estate and truly putting this horror under the scope. But will it actually pass a home inspection? So a home inspector will inspect an entire home and write a report on its condition. Inspections are normally impartial, although somewhat swayed towards whoever is footing the bill. But they aren't normally pass or fail type situations. Sometimes they can be though. I'll explain that part a bit later on, so hang tight. So what if we apply that concept to a home from a horror game? Well, for one, it's gonna destroy your immersion, so my apologies. But if you're here watching and you know me, you probably expected that. So let's assume that after the events of Fears of Fathom 1, the player's family decides to move across the country to escape the terrifying memories of what occurred, and some sucker attempts to buy this house. Well, good old HorrorScoped just happens to be their inspector today. And usually, I'm breaking games open and messing with them in all sorts of crazy ways, like how I turned this creepy guy in this game into a helicopter one time. But a long time ago, on a YouTube channel far, far away, I also used to analyze weird things in games, like comparing the inside and outside of Princess Peach's castle and how they don't match up, or determining if you could touch the moon with a hookshot in Ocarina of Time, even exploring nostalgic worlds and the weird spaces they contain. We're lowering the stakes today, however. I'm going to be checking out this home's structure, driveway, porch, back deck, all the rooms, and even the roof to show you things you probably never bothered to stop and look at. So let's get started, shall we? Here we are at the pleasant prior residence of Mike no last name and his mom. I have to say, the neighborhood here looks rather nice. Quite the shame about what happened here. Not sure why these trees have solid metal plates around them, but there goes your tax dollars. So the house sits within a square plot, and we have two types of fences. This picket fence up front, and these large privacy fences on the sides. And here is our first problem. For one, the front fence is misaligned at the end, but usually the height restriction for front yards is 4 feet, with 6 feet for the backyard, at least within city limits where I'm from. So the 6-foot privacy fence should really be restricted to the backyard. I'm no expert, and of course this is all for fun, but maybe one of you watching is. Anyways, let's wander on back now. We're going to start off by examining the exterior of the home, including the yard from the ground level. We'll then make our way inside, before ultimately getting our ladder out and going on the roof. It's kind of odd how they just split up this backyard. So, for reference, on the other side you have this little deck and pool area, but then there's just a 6-foot fence bisecting the yard. So you have this useless patch of grass back here, with the closest entry point being the front door. But let's take a look at this lattice. I'm going to recommend removing this in my report. With ivy growing this close to the house, you run the risk of it burrowing into your siding and ruining it. It causes discoloration as well. And, oh my. We will eventually examine the gutter system in full, but what in the world do they have going on here? The top of the downspout isn't even connected up there. I'm going to have to list this as a major concern in my report. It's defying gravity completely, as it just floats off the house. The downspout braces aren't even connected to the home. Incredible, but also terrifying. While we are over here, we can examine the exterior slab. So this home is built on a concrete slab with no basement. Looks to be about 4 inches. I don't see any weathering issues on the concrete itself. No cracks or chips, so that looks good. But we have another issue present here. There is no grading. Usually you want the earth around your house to be slightly elevated and then taper off downward over a span of 6 or so feet, so that the water flows away from the home. We have 0 grading here. In fact, it's so flat, I'm now a believer that the earth isn't round. The house siding is in very good shape though. No complaints there. You have to be careful with these kinds of end caps though. If there's enough spacing between them and the siding, it's basically an elevator for mice to potentially reach your attic. Let's make our way to the other side of the backyard now. On our way, we'll check out the state of the driveway and all the concrete pavement. So it looks like the driveway has some cracks along the corners, some minor spalling too, which is when it chips and breaks into smaller pieces. it might be worth trying to repair this before it gets worse, and to possibly seal the driveway. Because this is a copy and pasted asset, this whole driveway has this repeating issue. You know, I kinda wish I knew what state this took place in. It's definitely the USA given the flag, but the license plates are, not very helpful. It would be good to know if freezing is an issue here. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if the guy who poured this concrete for the back deck was on something, because good lord, this work is shoddy. Can I take this back to Costco? We have a concrete slab overlaying another concrete slab, and then take a look at this. This has to be off by like 6-7 inches, possibly more. I would have asked for a refund because someone's going to twist their ankle in the dark. A major concern for me. FHA loan peeps might run into some safety issues with this house. Speaking of which, let's talk about what I meant about failing the inspection. Now, if you live in America and have ever bought a home before for you or your family, which is a problem in itself, there's something you'll want to do before sealing the deal on a house. You'll want to get a home inspection with a provider who has no ties to the property, its owner, or the owner's realtor. And this inspector will come out with all their tools, and they'll take a bunch of photos and inspect the property to rate the condition of the building, its various parts, safety hazards, etc. It's just a report of the inspector's findings. However, if this is coupled with a buyer who is only financing through a stricter loan type, like a FHA loan, the bank may require the homeowner to make substantial and often nitpicky safety repairs before moving forward after their own appraisal inspection. So in this case, that report could cause the transaction to possibly fail if the property isn't deemed acceptable and the homeowner or buyer isn't willing to budge. So for our fail condition, we're looking for things that would be unreasonably costly, impossible to fix, or findings that are dangerous to the occupants. Requests the bank is going to make during their appraisal, which will be requirements for whether they're willing to take on the loan's risk for such a property. The buyer might see the report too and run, assuming they made the sale contingent on an inspection and something major came up. And speaking of issues, the gutter system is a work of art. Not only are the downspouts just spitting the water right onto the wooden deck, but they're also clipping through the roof itself. This one up front actually doubles back inside the front wall. Glorious! I have a sneaking suspicion the horizontal parts of the gutter system have issues as well, but we'll wait until the roof for that. Now, I'm no expert at doors, but I have manually replaced 2 doors in my life, frame and all, handles and locks too. But I did spend 5,000 hours on each door, so I guess I'm a master. Malcolm Gladwell will be proud. But these doors are, a bit unhinged, quite literally. Let's start with the front. The front door has a thumb release on the outside with a lever in the back, but for some reason, it has 2 deadbolt locks, which both require keys. Now, this type of lock is called a double-cylinder deadbolt, which you could argue is safer, but not if you're trying to flee from a fire and fumbling with your key, or can't reach your key. But to make matters worse, there's no actual bolt for this deadbolt. We only have the standard hardware installed on the side for the bottom lock. I guess a thief wouldn't know it was fake, but the sole of his shoe might. We don't even have a strike plate on the door frame. So this door can't even latch. It would be unlocked 100% of the time. There's also double hinges on the door, but no hardware connecting the hinges to the door frame. The door does seem to open and close without issues, so it's properly leveled, but it's also just floating like the magical downspout. They don't make them like they used to. So on the carport, we have the door that our assailant used to enter this home, and I can see why they used this door. A locksmith can't fix this. We have a keyhole on both sides that still has the wood intact behind it. Looks like the wood is still behind the window panes too. We have another case of missing door frame hardware here as well. The back door has a dual lever handle and the same issue with the double fake deadbolt lock. In this case, this would prevent someone from punching through the window and unlocking the door. That is, if the deadbolt wasn't fake. I'm not sure this house is going to be insurable at this point. Before moving inside, there is a pull out back, but there are no water fixtures or spigots on the exterior of the home. So I'm not sure how they filled this pool. There is an underground sprinkler system that was cut from the game before the game launched though, so we can reload that back into the game. If the climate gets cold, you want to make sure you blow out the underground lines, since these water lines aren't always buried deep, sometimes only 6 or 8 inches. There's no backflow prevention on this house, so maybe it was a good thing this sprinkler system was cut. That system basically prevents contaminated water from flowing back into your home. I don't recommend using it for tea. Let's head inside now, shall we? So there's something odd I noticed as I was walking around this home. It has 2 bedrooms, yet no bathrooms in this entire house. So mild concern. We'll break this down room by room now, so let's hop into the living room first. So right away, there's some text up on a wall that's left over from the modular asset pack that the game developer used to assemble this home. Brubus Ear Suburb? Is this the new Live Laugh Love? We also have some questionable books. Enlightening. But while looking around, I couldn't help but focus on the fireplace. Now, a proper fireplace inspection is important, otherwise you could burn the place down. So crawling inside the fireplace, we'll find our worst nightmare. There is no damper, and there is no chimney. It's sealed shut. If we take the camera and move up the wall, we'll find there is never a chimney, as it physically can't fit here, and it's missing from the roof. A major red flag, unless smoke billowing through your home is your kind of thing. Please don't speedrun lung cancer. I suppose you could argue it's a ventless gas fireplace, but usually those are filled with stones or decorative logs. This metal thing that holds logs is called an andiron, in case you were curious. It is for burning real logs, allowing airflow to get under them. Did I mention red flag? Switching gears, there's also no outlets in this room. Normally, you want to test all your outlets to make sure they are grounded and to avoid shock and fire hazards. But I'm not sure what these lights are plugged into. They are clipping through the wall too. It's possible there's an outlet behind the TV though. Moving on to the kitchen, we'll find that we lack some appliances. So there's no dishwasher in the home, and while searching, I didn't find a washer or dryer either. So I'm going to mark non-applicable for those. The fridge seems to be in working order, as the lasagna is cold. The stove fan's brand is called Hard-On, so do with that what you will. We know the range and oven works because the player cooked lasagna in it. This stove also lets us know the house does have gas, although I did not see a meter of any kind on the outside, so that's probably not a good sign. Well, not my problem. The kitchen cabinetry all looks to be installed correctly, and because I can't physically open them in the game, I'm going to assume they work properly. Onward and upwards! So next, we will turn our attention to these stairs. It's important that the railing is high enough to mitigate someone falling over the top of it, and that the balusters are spaced out in a way that prevents someone from falling between them. Those are the column things. This all checks out though, so that's a good sign. There's also light switches up here. Finally! Something I do notice in this landing is that we have a ventilation system. The rooms downstairs have vents as well, meaning we have air ducts and thus either heating or cooling in this home. Although heating vents are usually at ground level because it rises. I did not spot any external units outside, which is not a good sign, but there could be some kind of system set up in the attic, assuming there's an attic. Oh god, there's no access to the attic. I think that warrants another, major concern. There's no way to check for leaking roofs, mold, and lots of other things. Gross. You could have a rodent breeding ground up there. Let's ignore that glaring problem and move into Mike's old bedroom. First, can we talk about how there's a keyed deadbolt on both sides of the bedroom door? Now, I'm not one to judge, but that's taking grounding to another level. Perhaps there is more to this Fears of Fathom story than we first thought. It also looks like Mike's an avid reader of some interesting material. But hey, here's a big lore drop for you all. People say this game takes place in 2008, 2010, etc., but it's never really mentioned. The newspaper here says 2017 though, so unless Mike's an alias for Marty McFly, we might have solved the mystery. We also have found the first electrical outlets in the house. These will need to be tested, but interestingly, nothing is plugged in. We also have no signs of smoke and carbon monoxide detectors in the house. Perfect for that fireplace right below us. Heading into the second bedroom, we once again have a bolted door. We do have 2 lights on the ceiling and 2 light switches on the wall. There's also that weird placeholder text on the walls from the asset pack. I think it's time to talk about the topic of windows too. So windows are an important part of not getting burned alive while in a fire. If your path is blocked, you may have to consider a secondary escape option. And these windows would be a great choice, except they're not. While checking them out, I realized they have no unlocking mechanisms at all. There's no hinges for them to swing open, and they aren't staggered. If they were staggered, you could potentially slide one window in front of the other and have an opening. Every window in this house is more so just a glass wall, so you'd have to break it to get out, severely cutting yourself and bleeding, just like the blood splotches all over this inspection report. There's also something funky with the blinds too. The strings only go down to where the blinds raise when you crouch under them. If they had cats, I'd understand why. I mean, they still work, but the blinds just float. Seems to be a common thing with this interstellar home. Back in the bedroom, we do have unaccounted for space in this back corner of the house. Using 10,000 IQ door logic and opening the door while pinned against the wall, we can push ourselves into the small room behind the storage area. I'm not sure what to call this space though. Something else to note is that the downspout from the front corner of the house is clipping through the corner of the bedroom. It's visible in the kitchen too. It must have been accidentally moved inside the wall when the others got slid off the back wall during development. Whoops. But from here, we can only go up. Next up, the unreachable attic. So there is space for an attic if you look on the outside of the house. And if we jump up here, we'll find that the attic has wooden floors. There's nothing in here, and no entry point though, so that's concerning. The faces on the walls up here only render from one side, which makes sense since the player can't get up here. But there's also no ventilation on the exterior of the house either. Looking at the roof, we'll find no plumbing vents or flue stacks. Heck, there's no ventilation at all. We don't even have vented soffits. So your stove down below is just sucking up everything and spitting it into the attic. What could go wrong? My report is starting to look like a slasher film with all this red. So the top roof is too steep to stand on, so we'll send up a drone for that, much like your insurance company, they'll spy on your house. Are these even shingles? I'm not sure. I guess you could argue they are? I was trying to look into different roofing options and didn't find anything that looked like rectangular bricks, as it didn't look like longer shingles overlaying each other. If there's roofers in the audience who can offer an explanation other than shiny shingles, let me know. You're way more qualified than I am. But while we're up here, we can see that the roof looks pristine. There are some concerns though. I would recommend adding some sort of flashing along the edge of the carport where it meets the house. Flashing is usually metal that protects your joints and edges from water flowing into crevices that you don't want there. It's common to find on chimneys and near the edges of roofs like this. That way you don't have water leaking into your wall over time, or getting nestled into the seam, freezing, and creating an even bigger space for water to leak into. If we take a look at the gutter system, we'll see it could potentially use some work as well, besides what I mentioned before. Now, I'm not a gutter expert, but these gutters don't appear to be sticking out far enough to prevent high volumes of fast-moving water from being fully collected into the gutter. We have like an inch of clearance here, which is concerning, at least to me. I know the downspouts got accidentally moved in development, but I can't be 100% sure about these. The rest of the roof area looks great. There's no sagging spots or missing shingles. The porch down below looks nice though. The pillars look sturdy, as did the ones on the back deck. Don't really have complaints there, and I can't think of anything else. Oh, okay, maybe I can. So we have an electrical line running straight from the pole into the side of the house. I'm no lineman, but I think there's supposed to usually be 3 total wires leaving the pole per house. So feel free to correct me in the comments if you know. But there's no weatherproofing for where this connects, nor could I find a meter, or even a switchboard inside the home. Insurance is definitely not going to like that. And I think that covers things. So, we have numerous safety issues and structural mishaps at this 2-bedroom, 0-bathroom home. Now keep in mind a lot of this stuff is not seen by the player, nor is this to poke fun at the developer, whose games I'm a big fan of. It's just for pure enjoyment, so perhaps you learn something boring about homes. Remember, the player is restricted by giant invisible walls that keep them stuck within a limited region on the property, hence hiding certain details. But at the end of the day, this house ain't gonna fly. If I was the original owner, I was either really dumb and got swindled, or I should have sued the builder. Based on our findings today, I really can't see this going smoothly with the bank. The rainwater system is shot, the city will eventually complain about your fence, there are safety issues left and right, from non-functioning locks on all doors, to over half the windows needing to be replaced with compliant egress windows, a fireplace that is an accident waiting to happen, and a very concerning electrical service drop. And there's no bathroom, or proper plumbing ventilation. You could potentially fit a half bath beneath the staircase, but there needs to be remodeling done before this home can be financed by an average homebuyer. A house without a toilet and a place to bathe will be deemed uninhabitable by a bank. Perhaps the real fear to fathom was the home they're living in all along. Anyways, thanks for watching, and cheers!